do this little touch up here. Look. I'm gonna wait a second and see how many people I have jumping on. Hopefully it's a lot. I left the chat off today. I may do another one in a minute with the chat on. But I just wanted to get through some stuff that that I've been wanting to talk about. And it just seems like every time I do the chat on, I mean, I get so excited because I love having people on here. And I love talking to everybody, but also when I have specific things that I want to discuss, it's kind of hard for me to stay on topic, especially when lately the topics have been really good ones, like the people that are chatting, or they're not just used to, they were just kind of being goofballs, so they were like saying, like just kind of asking me either silly questions or just being whatever. But now it's like, it's definitely hard for me to stay focused when people are actually talking about, things that pertain to the channel and everything. So, but I did want to kind of go into a few things first and then maybe like jump off here and get back on one that has a chat going. I still can't figure out, I don't think when you do the when it goes after the live stream ends and I put it on my channel like for people to watch after the fact, I don't think the comments show up, and I'm kind of disappointed with that. If anybody knows about that, I don't know, leave a comment, because I feel like there's a lot of interaction and there's like a lot of good dialogue, I guess, that's that is on the chat. And especially there's probably some that I missed too, because here lately it's been like blowing up, which I love that. But I feel like I can't go back and see the comments or, like the chats afterwards. So I don't know if that's something that I'm not doing right, or if it's just something that you don't do that. So, but anyway, so if anybody knows about that, let me know. Also, just if you are on here, please comment, like, subscribe, share. Yeah, just support the channel. I want to continue to grow this channel. I want it to reach people that can relate to it, because I do feel like, once it gets momentum, once there's more people, once we get more people on here that have that share common interests, that have common struggles and everything, of course I don't know how the algorithms and everything work, but I do know that it does work. There is a system to it. And I think that it would be cool to, have other people, because I don't know much, I barely know I'm barely, starting like recovery myself. I have a little bit of sobriety in the past under my belt, but really, I'm just kind of, riding this wave too. Does a fly. But I was thinking, so I was looking back over my channel over the weekend, and I was trying to see like which videos, which live streams like had the most views, because they're kind of, it seems like there's really no rhyme or reason to it. So just in kind of looking at that, I was watching one of my first live streams that I ever did that had like, I don't know, like 3,000 views or something, which is better. It's like a lot higher than most of mine had been or still are. So I was watching it just to kind of see, like I said, like what maybe was, could have piqued people's interest, like what made it different from the other ones. And I noticed, well, so it was after, so I went to the rehab across the street from my house, like that past weekend. I was there for like 4 hours. And if you go back, and I think if you go back and watch the live stream, it probably just, it probably doesn't have a name. Like it's probably just, the date, like it was probably the end of last year. But I was thinking at first I was being overly critical, because obviously like I'm not using now. So I'm really trying to teeter on that line between like, I don't want to be embarrassed, and I definitely don't want to remove any of my content because, I was using then and I'm not now, because I do think that's very important to, to kind of like see my progress and like see how far I've came. But at the same time, I feel like because YouTube is kind of like so random, like what video you watch first, maybe a video that gives you a really bad impression of me. Well, it was a pretty good impression of me at the time. I was just not a good person at the time. Nah, that's not true. I mean, I had stuff going on, and also just, like my temperament and everything. I mean, I just wanted to see myself as this, ray of sunshine and everything. And I mean, in that video, I was really like irate. I mean, I really was so worked up about this rehab facility that I went to, that I'd stayed at for 4 hours, that just had, so much stuff. I mean, I was just like outraged by it. So I watched the video, and there's some stuff in there that kind of makes me think, like, I was talking about like anointing and stuff. And I mean, I really didn't have like maybe I did have like a God complex. I think everybody on meth does. I was humble about it. Like, I was humble about the fact that I was smarter and better and more holy and anointed than everybody else. Like, it's crazy. I mean, it's absolutely crazy, the mind of a drug addict. But my point is this: I didn't want to let that, those few things that were kind of humorous more than anything, take away from the overall message, because my anger, I think, came from a pretty justified place. I am somebody, my experience with religion or God, not that they're the same, but my experience with religion throughout my life and recovery throughout my life. Fortunately, I'm someone who has the ability to say not every situation is the same. As a matter of fact, every experience is different, whether it comes to recovery, religion, anything. You're never going to meet the same person twice. You're never going to have the same experience twice. This is just not possible. It's just how life is, So fortunately, I've been able to say, okay, you know what? Every time I've been to the hospital against my will, I was treated horribly. I have trauma stories from it. It was horrible. But I have to believe that now, if I call 911, I have to believe that there's a chance that I will be treated different. But some people don't have that ability. Some people are very much, under the assumption that, like, if I went to one rehab and I was treated like this, I'll never go again. They must all be like this. Or, if I had one bad experience in a church when I was a child, or at a doctor's, or whatever it is. I mean, and a lot of people have good reason for that, depending on how horrible the experience was. But fortunately for me, I was able to see, and also there's the fact, this is a major thing about it, okay? Your willingness to be there, to change, to, your willingness to see things in a positive, and from a positive perspective, is going to, like, immensely, I'm not trying to use big words to sound smart. I don't want to use big words to sound photosynthesis. Oh yeah. So, what was I just saying? Oh my gosh, my intelligence just distracted me. Just kidding. But what I'm saying though is this: you're willing. That's what it was. Your willingness. So, if you go into a situation, first of all, especially when it comes to drug addiction, recovery, treatment, all of those things, let's just talk specifically about that. Let me quit being vague about it. I want to talk specifically about a person's willingness to get help. A person that is in their addiction, whether alcoholism, drug addiction, mental illness, whatever the case may be. When a person gets to the point where they're ready to seek out help, whether it be with like the help of like the concerned family members, or just like on their own, whatever the situation is, the outlook they have going into it is going to vastly determine like the outcome. There are a lot of different factors, clearly, but what I wanted to talk about more specifically today is the role and the responsibility that these people with any type of position of authority have in this, whole scenario, and the importance that it can play, obviously, the importance that it plays in a person's recovery. At the end of the day, the person's willingness to change, to do better, to overcome the, they can only do it, they have to want it, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of people that would want it more had it not been such a horrific experience. So one thing that sparked my, my thinking about this over the weekend was this. The recovery center that I went to for 4 hours, that I had the whole video where I was just like, I was so outraged at the way they treated me. And I kept thinking, there are people out there that aren't as strong as me that would not, they wouldn't bounce back from this the way I did. But really, I mean, maybe there's people that are stronger than me because they were willing to endure less than ideal, circumstances, you know, to get clean. Like, it was more important to them to get clean than it was to be comfortable. You know, I mean, I can pick, I mean, and I'm good. I mean, and that place really made it very easy just to pick it apart. You know, it was just very not good to begin with, you know, but there are people that I talk to people all the time that come out of that place that are clean, you know, that are sober, that are, you know, doing the damn thing, you know, so you can get clean anywhere. I went to a rehab this last time that was literally like a 5-star hotel, and it really was. I mean, this place, when I tell you, it had drinks on tap 24/7. Like, you could go downstairs, you could wake up in the middle of the night and be like, you know what? I want a Dr. Pepper, like on ice, and go downstairs and fix one, or orange juice, or B12 flavored water, or coffee, or tea, you know, like anything. I mean, it was just like, it was I mean, it really kind of like, I think, I had to be careful for it not to spoil me, because, you know, I'm used to going to rehab and, you know, people like fighting over coffee creamers and stuff. You know, I mean, like when the coffee got put out at, you know, 6 a.m. or, you know, 3 p.m. or whatever, like it was like a mad dash, like people like knocking people over and stuff, you know. So I'm not saying that that's right, because I don't think people should be treated like animals and, you know, like whatever. But I also don't think that, you know, there's a certain amount of comfort that comes with, you know, it's just, it leads to entitlement. So what I was thinking was, you know, what is the importance of these people in any type of position of power, you know, the role that they play in people's recovery. You know, and we're dealing with people in a very fragile state. You know, we're dealing with people who have all types of emotional, you know, they have dysregulated emotions. They have very, very fragile egos. You know, I mean, we're using drugs to, you know, either run from ourselves, or, you know, to make ourselves believe that we're somebody that, you know, we don't like ourselves. So we want to pretend we want to be a person in our mind that we like, or we want other people's like, so we want to be able to cope with ourselves, or we've just been through traumatic stuff, or, you know, or whatever the case may be. I mean, you're dealing with people that are already in a, I would say, vulnerable state, you know, so the slightest thing can offend them and send them over the edge, you know. So, you know, when you have people that are also sick that are running these places, it just makes it that much more likely that it's I mean, it just ends in catastrophe. It really does. And I've seen it firsthand. Like, I've seen it with my own eyes. I've watched people that, you know, that went through, they're recovering addicts themselves. And it could be, it's one of those things with human nature, you know, it could be very, very good. It could be it could be the most ideal scenario where you have someone who's came through addiction and recovery and can relate, and they understand the struggles, they understand, and they also know that it's possible to overcome it. And then it's inspiration to people that are just new in recovery. So it could be a very, very powerful, you know, dynamic. But it also has the, you know, the risk of being extremely toxic. I hate to even use that word anymore because it's so overused, but I saw this Facebook post that said, it said, "You're toxic." That's a strange way of spelling exotic. I just thought it was funny because this girl was just like, oh, I don't know. I just thought it was funny. She was like, "You talk a lot of crap for somebody who lives in a flammable house." I just thought that was funny because every house is a flammable, you know. And there was one that said any room can be a what do they call it? Like the panic rooms. It's like any room can be a panic room if you'll give me 30 seconds. Anyway, okay. So I'm going to get to the point. So what I did was, because I usually don't do anything to prepare for these live streams, because I just kind of want to like blah, 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 blah. But I am going to try to be a little more structured and like at least, you know, I want to be, so I have a roommate right now. Sue Ann is, she's in school full time. She goes to school online. And she also has a part-time job. It's actually full-time right now. She's trying to go to part-time, but this woman, morning, noon, and night, she is at that laptop, just typing away and researching and just like you know, flexing her mental, you know, those muscles, like her brain muscles. And it just, I want to be like that, you know, like I love these people that like, I've never done well at, like I'm a hands-on person. So what I'm saying is like this, like I could go to a 9 hour a day, lecture or class or whatever it is. And as long as, you know, as long as I'm kind of forced to be engaged there, I'm going to stay with it, you know. But if you kind of send me on my way with like some homework or like stuff to do like on my own, it's just not, it's not in my nature. Like, I just don't do it. I just don't like to, you know. I'd rather like be there, like interact, like, you know, whatever. I mean, like I think about even like, man, I mean, everybody has that. Like, there's always work that you have to do, whether it be like paperwork, administrative, you know, whatever. Like if I was going to be a therapist, which is something that I would consider doing, you know, I'm gonna have to, you know, like there's notes and stuff that you have to. I mean, you have there's things that you have to do. It's not like, well, I had 3 clients today, so I'll work for 3 hours. You know, I mean, there's a lot more than that. So I am working on being. I want to take this seriously. First of all, like I want to take this, even though this is not my job, and I have no intentions of getting paid to do this, but I do want to let this be like a, you know, practice for me of like getting serious and, you know, like having that mental like what's it, you know, like focus to be able to just sit there and like grind away and, you know, research or writing stuff or preparing for stuff, you know what I mean? I think that's really cool. And I think it's gonna, you know, make this, set this apart from, you know, where I'm just get on here and like talk and blah 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 blah, and, you know, and actually maybe you know, have some success with it, or help people, or you know, have information that is, you know, that interests people or could help people. But I was thinking about it, you know, because it's not like a gimmick for me. It's not like I'm trying to get people on here to like make money or whatever. But it is important that people don't get like misinformation. So I looked up some, let's see. Here, let me just look here. So I looked up some, I'm like sweating from this coffee, y'all. These glasses are like really, I call them my Mr. Magoo glasses. They're like way stronger prescriptions than what I need. I just grabbed them at the dollar store. And they're like fogged up right now because this coffee is like really hot. Okay. So I'm really hot and I'm wearing like a tracksuit. Do I look like I'm married to a mobster? I think I look like a Russian athlete or something. Could you think I could be an Olympic, like an Olympic athlete or something? I don't know. Maybe I just look like a chick that's bald. Because I am. Okay, so on average, 100 people choke to death on ballpoint pens each year. I thought that was funny because it was literally the first one. I was like, oh, I'm at risk already, you know? 97.3972711128% of statistics are made up. Why is that one especially hilarious to me? Because I think that that's a made up number. I think that's like the humor in it. Maybe it's not humorous. Maybe it really is a fact, but it says that 97.4% of statistics are made up. And then also I just wanted to look up, like, you know, what are the most trusted professions? As of 2025, because it did say physician on here, but as of 2025, in America at least, the most trusted profession is nurses. So, you know, that's just what that is. And then next in line is like, there's teachers, scientists, pharmacists, firefighters, registered nurse, veterinarian, dentist, and journalist. So those are from what I could tell, and I didn't do like a lot of digging, but just from like a quick Google search, those are the most trusted professions. So, needless to say, I mean, some of these are not at all related. I mean, a journalist, a vet, you know, whatever. But needless to say, like, these professions are all at least, you know, to some degree related to our, you know, journey through recovery. I mean, you're definitely going to interact with nurses for sure. You know what I mean? And then firefighters, dealt with those every time, you know, because they would want to come out when whatever. But I have a whole thing on that. But anyway, so, you know, when you when you deal with these people, I mean, you're putting a lot of, there's a lot of things that are like in their hands. So, I mean, I just think that, it's important that they take their jobs seriously. And I think that, it's something that especially in recovery, you don't have to be a licensed professional. You don't have to be like a RN. You don't have to be a licensed was it like a LPN? Is it, or no, like LPC, like a licensed professional counselor, I think is what it's called. That's what my therapist is. She's a LPC. So she can't like write prescriptions and stuff. She's not a psychiatrist. But she's, on the board of psychologists. I mean, has her degree and is qualified and, able to be a therapist, to be my therapist, to do counseling, to do like therapy sessions and everything. But to be like an addiction, like to be on the staff of like a recovery center, I mean, you have to have a certain length of sobriety, which I'm kind of curious about that too. And if anybody has any information that they would like to share on this, by all means, because this is kind of me just like throwing the information out there. I'm not really like, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just saying like like from what I can see. But there are people that work for rehab facilities that are not addicts. So I don't know how that works. Like, I don't know if you went there and if you said, I'm not a drug addict, so I've never used drugs, but I want to work here. If they'd be like, okay, cool, we believe you, or if, they do a little back, I don't know. I don't know how that works. But I do know that, as I was saying before, there's just things that people typically that are addicts or alcoholics, there are tendencies that they have. There are character defects that are pretty prevalent in them that don't do well in a, that type of environment, and it just, I see it all the time. If you are ever, like, say you were in drug rehab and you're sitting by like a tech, and they're called techs. Like, you have like the clinical directors, the psychiatrists, which there's usually like, those are the ones that are going to like prescribe you your medication. They're, like very well qualified. They're pretty much doctors, they're, or like RNs or whatever. You're going to see them, like, they're going to actually put you on the medication. And then you're going to have under them, you're going to have like the nurses that work in the nursing station, which also play a very important role because they're the ones that are going to administer your medication. They have the role of like, yeah, so they're kind of like your go-to for like any type of medical situation that's not like, I need to be off this medicine because it's like whatever. Then you have the counselors who are probably, they're kind of in I wouldn't even put them in the category of like the psychiatrists or the nurses. They are, like I was saying, they're usually like licensed counselors. They have some type of credentials, because they're the ones that are going to like lead the groups. Like the group sessions, they'll interact with you one-on-one. They're pretty much, they're some of them will be recovering addicts. Some of them will just be like, like my counselor was, she was just a girl or a woman that had her degree in psychology or whatever. And that was like the field that interests her. Then you have your techs who are, like I was saying, they are either addicts that have had, have a good amount of sobriety under their belt. Like maybe they went to that rehab facility and they, graduated from it. They went to sober living. They did that thing. They have like a year plus of sobriety. They worked the steps. They maybe have, sponsees and stuff like that. And then they, want to, pursue that as a career, a career or like a job, if you will. Those are the people that could care the most. Those are the people that it's in some cases will, devote their whole lives and they will go above and beyond because they care, like it doesn't matter if they're at the bottom of the totem pole or they have the lowest, pay grade or whatever, but then you are going to have those two that are going to, you can just, I can see right now, leaned up against the wall, playing on their phone. Can you get somebody else to do it? Or no, that, whatever, they're just lazy. They just don't care. That's the case with anything though. You're going to have those people that they're just there for a paycheck, Again, I'm saying like, that's not okay though. It's really not. Should I get as worked up about it as I did in that other video? No. But it was, I think, because I was at a point where I think I wasn't quite ready to admit that I wanted help. But it left a bad taste in my mouth that really, it probably scared me, knowing that if I ever got to the point where I was ready to seek out help or, go to treatment, that like I was gonna have to stay in like a really cold, icky feeling like hospital room that people have died in, because it used to be a nursing home, and they gave us sandwiches like in bags for dinner and stuff. It was just like, I'm not like high maintenance or anything, but it was a very bad experience. So I do think that kind of like had but it did kind of give me an insight. It kind of gave me a look at like how, what it can be like. And these are people, a lot of these people, it is life or death for them. Like, I mean, we run that risk every day. I say this all the time, but like as a drug addict, as a recovering drug addict, I know that if someone is an opioid addict, whether you can understand this or not, I mean, it may, it's just, these are just the facts. They know, at least on some level, they know that at any point they could die, whether it be from like fentanyl being in it or an overdose or whatever, like they could, like it's a very, very high possibility, anytime you buy drugs off the street, that you always run that risk. But me being a meth addict, it wasn't life or death for me. I mean, I was smart about it. Like I'm not going to be like, hey, person that I've never met before that just randomly gave me some drugs, like, let me do this. You know what I mean? Like, but still, I mean, it wasn't, it was something that, it was stupid for me to do that. It was not smart at all for me to take, illegal drugs. But getting sober for me wasn't life or death. It was a life worth living, or, I mean, death at the very, I mean, really, it was quite possible that it was going to be death for me, because I thought I was going to, I would be really to the point where I would want to take my own life. I mean, honestly. But yeah, to see people, in a situation to where they're really, their life depends on it, and to see them treated in a way that's just not even humane, like, it did really outrage me. But again, I could see watching the video in hindsight, like watching it now, even though it was only from a few months ago, I could see the fear underneath that anger. I mean, I could. I mean, it could have been righteous anger, but it was stemming from a place of fear, and that's what we do. Like, not just addicts, but people in general. We seek out reasons to exert the emotions that we need to, like, if I'm fearful and I, express my fear in the form of anger, I can go out and find something to be angry for. I mean? I don't have to drive in traffic every day. But I'm typically not an angry person. So if I was someone who typically dealt with my fear or my, whatever emotions, like in the form of exerting like anger, and this is not something that we consciously decide, but if that were the case, it would make sense for me to drive, across town, and sit in traffic every day to be angry, if I'm somebody who really copes with my, kind of my emotions come out more in the form of like sadness, depression, I mean? Like, yeah, I could watch, the scene from Almost Famous where Penny Lane takes all the Quaaludes and stuff, because that makes me so sad. And if you really know what I'm talking about, comment right now, please. Well, you can't comment because it's on the live stream, but I want you to go back and comment if it does not rip your heart out of your chest, and it just like, oh, it breaks my heart every time she looks up at him and she says, why doesn't he love me? And it's just so sad. I love Kate Hudson. He did love her. That was the thing. He really did. Penny Lane. But anyway, I could watch that. I could watch that, and it's going to make me cry every time. Hell, I might even go out and do things that are going to break my heart, so that I have a way to kind of channel those emotions. You see what I'm saying? So going over there and really seeing stuff that really did like outrage me. It made sense for me. I was very justified in my mind for feeling that way, feeling the way I was feeling. But the point is that it came from a place of fear. And I'm just grateful. I feel like I wish I wouldn't have been, I wish I would have just came on here and talked. I really wish I would have done the chat, because I feel like I'm not really expressing the things that I want to express. But I guess more than focusing on the negative things that can come from bad experiences with treatment, I guess I want to go this route instead. I'm very grateful, I'm very grateful that that I made it through, that I was able to get past the fear that came from all the bad experiences that I had in the past, when I wasn't ready to get help. I wasn't. And I could go on and on about how people treated me and stuff, but the fact is, you cannot help somebody that doesn't want to be helped. You cannot hospitalize somebody I get it. Like, there are times when, people need to be PEC'd, because they're a danger to themselves or somebody else. I get that, But when a person is just acting a little erratic because they're on drugs, like, you can't just hospitalize them and sedate them and, do all these things because, you're afraid because, like, you lost some money in the past to drug addiction or whatever. Like, there comes a point when you are, letting your emotions and your trauma and your fears and your personal, like, your life affect the people's lives that you're treating, that are under your care. And so, but I'm so thankful that when I came to the point where I was ready to get help, I'm so thankful that I didn't let those past experiences keep me from seeking out that help, because it was the absolute best experience that I could have ever hoped for. Now, mind you, it's never a fun thing to call 911 and say that you are suicidal and have the ambulance come to your house and pick you up and have the same cops come to the house that it came there before and harassed you and hemmed you up and, like, bruise your legs up and stuff and all that stuff, and have them just be sitting there like, what are you doing? Like, did you call us? I'm like, no, I didn't call you, Pittman. And there's no hostility or resentment there at all. So I don't even think that, Pittman. But anyway, it was not a fun Friday night, but neither was sitting at my house smoking meth, wanting to take my own life, bashing my head up against the wall, not literally, but almost literally. Just, so outdone with myself, so outdone with life, just at my wit's end, So if those are my two best options, or my two only options, like, I'll take calling 911, having the EMS come pick me up, having them ask me what hospital that I want to go to. That in itself, you don't even have to ask me if I want to go, because I've already willingly said I need help, so you're already not taking me against my will. But then also asking me, like, giving me an option of, like, what hospital I want to go to. Well, I really appreciate you giving me that option, because I don't want to go to the one that I went to last time that treated me so horribly, So is it a coincidence that this time when I got the choice and I chose a hospital that was different from the one that I went to that I had the bad experience with, is it a coincidence that that hospital actually treated me with kindness and just, I don't think it was a coincidence, again, not expecting, like, the red carpet to be rolled out for me, but, you're dealing with, it's a tough situation anyway. So I'm, like, going to the hospital in the ambulance, and this girl is, like, blotting my tears, like, sitting back there with me, like, are you cold? Like, giving me a blanket and stuff, and just, like, patting my tears, like, blotting my tears with the tissue and, like, telling me it's going to be okay. That makes a difference, that makes a difference. And so I'll just kind of tell, I'll just kind of tell this story. So, because I forgot, and here's the thing, this is the crazy thing. I forgot that there was even a process like that you go through when you get committed and all that stuff, because I was usually unconscious for it. And it wasn't because I was like, rah, like it wasn't like that. It was just like I think they just knew that I was on drugs and they just wanted to help me. And so they were willing to like force me into it when like, I was never, that was the first time that I had ever even mentioned having suicidal thoughts. So never in the past was anybody like, did anybody call 911 and was like, hey, I think that this girl needs to be committed because she wants to kill me or herself, like that never happened. But I think people just want to help at any cost, and that's not okay. So, where was I going with that? Okay. So I forgot, because I've been hospitalized several times. I forgot that there was a part of the process, that one of the stages of this whole process was like the holding cell pretty much of emergency rooms, and it's like beds, like a room with like a bunch of beds in it that you just like lay in, and I think some of them are even like guys and girls like in the same room. Like I had this girl next to me. One of them was snoring so loud, y'all, and it was so cold in there. It was so cold. I had 2 blankets over me. Now, when I got there, they had the blankets like in an oven. So when they gave me the blanket, like it really was like it just came out of the oven, like out of the dryer, but like really like they kept them like in an oven. So that was really cool. But then when I got back to like that room or whatever, when it was time to go to sleep, they gave me another blanket, and I was still like, I was so cold that like I was curled up in a ball, and like I couldn't move. Like I didn't want to move because I was so cold, and like I could, it was really, really cold in there. But so the first girl that was in there, she was snoring really, really loud. But I was still just like, I was kind of laughing about it. And I'd been crying so much, like my eyes were like swollen shut. I looked like, I don't know. I looked like somebody that had been crying for like a day, because I had been. So anyway, so then this other girl came in, and due to HIPAA, I can't tell you. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even know her name. She was screaming. Like she was like what you would expect if you were in like a psych ward. Or like if you were getting committed to like for mental issues, like she was, what you would think it would be like. I mean, she was just shouting like crazy things, and then she started shouting like inappropriate things. So they were like, hey, whoa, chill out. And at one point I think she thought I was a man maybe. And she was like trying to like, hey, come sleep over here and stuff. And they were like, whatever her name was, they're like, ma'am, like that's enough, and I was like, oh my gosh. So, okay. So I'm just going to kind of tell my story because it's good. It's a good one. This is the best story because this is the time that I chose to get help. And it just so happens to be the time that I did get help, and it made a difference, and it saved my life. It really has. So, so you remember the Super Bowl, like the Super Bowl that was like a month and a half ago, February 7th, 8th, 9th, maybe. I'm thinking the Super Bowl. If you know it, comment it below when the comments are available. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out how this YouTube thing works. But yeah, the Super Bowl that was like, less than 2 months ago. So I was at a hospital in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on a Friday night. So I'm sleeping in like the holding cell of emergency rooms, and again, I forgot how this process works because I was usually not coherent for it. But so I sleep that night barely, I'm like between sleep and like hyperthermia. And so the next morning, like bright and early, like it was like 6 o'clock, they're like, Lindsay, wake up, Alice, wake up. You're going to St. Anne's. And I'm like, where's that? And they're like, New Orleans. I'm like, what? No. I'm like, hold up. No. And I'm sure they get that a lot because people are like, a lot of people, they're against their will, or maybe they wanted to be there. And then they're like, no. Like, I don't want to go. Like, I want to go home or whatever. So I was like, no. And they were like, yes. And I was like, I am not going to New Orleans to a psych ward the weekend of Super Bowl Sunday. Like, you have lost your damn mind. I have lost my damn mind already. So I'm sure not going to go. I mean, I was just thinking, like, that's crazy. So they go back and look, and it turns out, no, it's literally like, I mean, it was in South Louisiana, but it was not, it was like probably an hour and a half, I would think, from New Orleans. But I was just like, oh, no. So anyway, so they like, so I go through the process again. I'm like getting loaded up in the ambulance. Again, they're very kind. They let me take the blanket, even though it's theirs. And I'm just like, thank you. Like, thank y'all so much. Like, thank you so much for treating me like a human being. Like, really, like, honestly, thank you so much. So we go, so we leave there in Baton Rouge and we go to like, whatever, it's like an hour drive. And yeah, it was just like a cool process. This was like an old hospital. You could tell me to have like, the outdated towels and stuff that were like brown or like mauve, pink, whatever. But it was like immaculate clean. Like, you couldn't even, like, I had to change out of the scrubs that I was in from the hospital, from the ER. Like, I had to take them off, throw them away, and like put on clean scrubs just to like go from the ambulance like to the upstairs, like to that floor or whatever. Like, they were very like hygiene, like like very sanitary and everything, which is crazy because I think that sanitariums, when they refer to that in the AA Big Book, I'm pretty sure sanitariums are the psych wards. That's what they call them, like that. So sanitation, I guess, could be like cleanliness, but also I think it's like sanity. Somebody fact check me on that. I'm not for sure, but yeah. So I go up there, and it was just like the best experience. And y'all, I just want to tell you this, like, going to the behavioral unit of a hospital does not have to be a bad experience. It really doesn't. I understand first of all, I understand the fear that comes from, if you have a family member or if you have people in your life that have either threatened you or have actually, have you committed, like, because of whatever. Like, people can do anything for the wrong reasons, and it happens all the time. And I'm really sorry if anybody's going through that. I've gone through that, I get it. And it's very messed up that we live in a world where we live in a country where you can go to jail when you're innocent, or you can go to hospitals when you're not sick. I mean, we live in a world where these things happen because people are going to find ways to work the system, whatever system it is. They're going to take everything that's used for good and they're going to find a way to manipulate it to use it for evil. That's just the world that we live in. And that's just part of being humans. That's what we do. But if you're somebody who, whether that's the case for you or not, like, if you're somebody who ever wants to get help, or if you're in a situation where like this is happening to you, I know in that moment you're probably not going to be like thinking about me, but for what it's worth, like, it doesn't have to be a scary experience. It really doesn't. And I will tell you, out of all the psych wards that I've been in, and it's been quite a few, I've rarely met people that were really crazy. I mean, there's been the occasional. I mean, there was one, I'm not saying I've never seen genitals, but for the most part, I've actually met some really nice people, some really kind people, some really just laid back, like normal people, and maybe that's a result of them being there. I mean, maybe that's what they needed. I know that's what I needed. But I cried for like I cried through the whole process, that whole time. Like, just right in there, like, it was just one woman. I think it was just one woman that, no, it might've been two, that the EMS drivers that brought me from the one hospital to the other. I don't think either of them sat in the back with me though. And so I was just back there, just kind of like chilling. I didn't feel like going back to sleep. So like I would just like think, I don't even know what I would think about. And I would just start crying again. I was crying, but I think it's because, we express these emotions like when we feel safe to, and I just was in an environment, like in a place, whether it be in my own head or whatever, where like, I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel okay. Like, there was just something wrong, And it was like when I finally got the help that I needed, like when I finally just made that call, like I mean, it was just like this relief. And I mean, and I was just crying and I was crying, but like, I was like, I knew that it was okay. Like, I knew that I was okay, you know? So even when I got there, when my eyes are like swollen shut, you know, I mean, I'm just literally like going through a whole box of tissue, you know? It didn't last, like, it didn't last long, you know? Like, once it subsided, like, I felt better than I felt in a really long time. And you have to understand too, this is coming off of like using meth daily for the good part of 3 years. And it's crazy to me that I'm even admitting that openly. I mean, it really is. I mean, I think that I've said it so many times that I forget that, like, I am putting my business completely out there. I don't care. And it's not that I don't care because I'm this person that has no morals or like, you know, just I don't care what anybody thinks. It's not that. It's I don't care because I don't think that people are as judgmental, first of all, as a lot of people think that they are. I don't think that there's many people out there. First of all, like, if you are somebody still, because I know I see it all the time on Facebook, you know, these people that are like, you know, they joke, they make fun of meth addicts a lot. I mean, and I get it. I know, I've seen it. It's cruel. It's really cruel because, first of all, these stereotypes are not usually true. And second of all, that's mean. Like, it's mean. And a lot of people have to swallow their pride because they used to be the ones talking shit about them. And now they're, you know, lo and behold, they're using the same drugs that they were making fun of people for. You know, it's like, that's something that we really, as a society, I really feel like we have to get away from that. It's not funny. It's not funny. It's hateful. You know, the Karen stuff, that's hateful. I don't like that stuff because since when do we live in a society where having a problem and addressing it in a calm, respectful way is like shunned and ridiculed, you know? It's not. Like, I was frustrated the other day because, like, my roommate had, like, it looked like Tasmanian devil came through here. Like, it really was like a whirlwind, just stuff strode everywhere. And it really upset me because I was like, I don't live like this, you know? Like, I'm a clean person, and I, you know, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is make my bed, and like actually make it, not like throw the covers over the pillow, you know, like I actually make my bed. Like, my life is very routine and structured, you know, and I think that that's a big part of recovery. So the girl that was like house, like temporarily like the house mom or whatever, she went to my roommate and was like, so obviously your roommate's a little OCD, you know, just, if you can, just try. I know, like, I'm sorry. And I was like, that's such BS. You know, I was like, since when is OCD like just your basic like cleanliness? Like, that's, people are so, you know, it's like we're to the point where we ridicule the people that have somehow managed to maintain some of these virtues despite all the shit that gets thrown at you in this world, you know? And I'm not saying that from a holier than thou place. Like, I'm not saying like sitting up here on my high horse because, as I just said, I was a meth addict, you know? But I didn't lose. I was able to hold on to a lot of the, you know, good qualities that I had as a person. So anyway, so this was the part that I want to say, because I tell this story all the time. This is like my favorite part of the hospital. If you heard me tell this story, like, I'm going to tell it again. And also because I want you to know, like, this is the process that you go through. Like, one of the things that you're going to do when you go to like a psych ward, or like a behavior, you know, if you're there for like, you know, like whatever, you know why you're there. You know what you did. So at some point, probably in the first few days, you know, you're going to see the psychiatrist or like see the doctor, you know, and you go in there and he's going to ask you a bunch of questions. He or she's going to ask you a lot of questions. Well, when I went in there, I just love telling this story. I really do. So I went in there and the doctor's like, I feel like he was probably I feel like I'm autistic. I feel like he was autistic. I feel like we would have really got along in like a different setting, you know? Probably not though. Probably not. So he's like typing away on the laptop, you know, he's like, never even looks at me, you know, and he's like this very like straight, like not straight lace, but like very clean cut. Like he's got on, I want to say he had like on like a plaid button up shirt, you know, and like glasses and, you know, just like real smart put together guy, you know. And I'm like in, you know, socks with groupies. So he's like typing away, asking me some basic questions, you know, like about my, you know, my drug use and my, medical history and things that are relevant like that. And he goes, well, what are you going to do with your life? Like, what's your plan? And I'm like, I mean, well, I don't know. That's a loaded question. Like, you're being quite vague there, doctor, and he's like, what are you going to do with your life? And I'm like, all right, like, okay. I'm like, okay. Because at this point you have to understand, I'm like 2 days out from being on a drug that makes me think that I really am the smartest person in the world. I'm the smartest person in the world, and I'm so smart and humble that, like, I'm not gonna let you know how smart I am. Like, I'm gonna go on YouTube and I'm not even gonna flaunt the fact that I'm smarter than everybody. It's just the fact that I knew it. That's what meth made me feel like. And if you watch any of my past videos, you may hell, you might even think that I really was the smartest person. I mean, the whole point of this video was to talk about how, people really do. I mean, I get it. I look like Sinead O'Connor right now. But, people typically trust this. I look like a PE teacher right now, actually. No, this is a whistle. I look like a PE teacher. Oh, my gosh. Okay, I'm turning red. I'm getting embarrassed. And I'm getting off the topic. All right. So, Dr. No, my pants just fell. Not the ones I was wearing. Oh my God. Okay. So Dr. Broomfield, Broomhilda was like, what are you going to do with your life? For the third time. And I'm like, okay, I still don't know, doctor, And I was like, I'm kind of being as hard as I was like, I'm going to quit doing drugs, Which I don't think was really, I really don't think when I went there, I don't think in my not so okay mind, I really thought like that was not, I mean, because I could have went to rehab, like I could have been like, you know what, I'm using drugs. I want to not use drugs. I'm going to go to rehab. I mean, people do that. I never did. It was always my decision. I never went to rehab against my will. I went to the hospital against my will quite a few times, but once I got there and got my head on straight, there were several times that I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll go to rehab, and not for nothing, I mean, like I gained a lot I grew a lot and I gained a lot from going to rehab. Just because I did not stay sober since then doesn't mean that it was like just, all was lost. I mean, I do think that this time is going to be different. I really do. But anyway, so I'm like, so I think at that point, I may have just been saying what I thought he wanted me to hear. Because like I said, I did not go to the hospital with full intentions of stop using drugs. I know in the past, there's been several times that I have kicked those double doors open, walked out like Sandy from Grease, like, like walk in, like been like straight, like go into the car, like get me home so I can like, like get back to where I left off, or been like pissed off at my boyfriend for like throwing my drugs away. I mean, really, like that's so crazy to me. But that's the insanity of it, So I really don't know, even when I went there the day prior or the few days prior, like if that was my intention. But either way, I knew what he was getting at. I was still sharpened up here, even in my, like kind of like my mind, slowly inching back to reality. I still had a little bit of, that superpower, like my super whatever, intellect up there to go, I'm going to quit doing drugs. Is that what you were looking for? And he's like, how? I'm like, oh my God, with this guy, I'm like, you guys are giving me medication like that, like I'm here. I think that'll help. And he's like, maybe not enough. What else? I'm like, I'm going to get a new doctor. I know that. So I'm like, I see, and I, this is something that, I mean, you'll hear me say this 20,000 times. I see a therapist once a week. I've seen a therapist once a week for a year and a half. Cool. You found somebody that gets paid to listen to you run your mouth, good for you. How's that working out for you? You're still a drug addict? Okay, cool. Try again. I'm like, oh my God. And that was kind of me. I mean, I kind of threw that in because that was kind of like, it really, seeing a therapist is I think everybody should do it and all that, but like, what was that doing? You know, I was like, not that she's not to take away from her because she's amazing, but you can't help somebody that doesn't want to be helped. So anyway, so I'm like, I said something else. There was like another thing that I said, and he was like, not working. And I'm like, what do you want from me? And he's like, I want you to go out of here and I want you to come back tomorrow and I want you to tell me what you're going to do with your life and how you're going to do it. And I'm like, okay, well, just so you know, all the patients in here say that you're lame behind your back. And he's like, I don't care. And I'm like, thanks, doctor, So, and I'm exaggerating this story, but it really is, because it's funny, because it just shows like, this is, I've been treated in the hospital in a way that was like, really just like not okay. I asked a nurse one time, or like one of the techs one time, like for a glass of water or like a cup of water. And like, she really did wait 30 minutes. She was sitting there like showing the other tech, like pictures of her when she was like 20 pounds lighter and stuff. I swear, for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, this went on. And then I asked her again and she was like, hang on a second. I was like, oh my God. So people can be like that, and it's not for, they're just they're just being a-holes, but this doctor really was like, a dick, but in like the best way, Let me rein it back in a little bit. But anyway, so I go out, and it took me all of getting halfway through the hall to be like, I know where he's going with this, doctor, like, I see what you're working with up there. It takes one to know one, you spot it, you got it. Like, I'm a genius, you're a genius. We just chose different paths in life, So the next day when it gets my time, I go in there and he's like, well, and I'm like, I'm going to go to rehab. And he's like, awesome. I'm happy for you. Let's get you going. Like, let's get you out of here. Let's get you on the road to like your new life. And I think he may have even cracked a smile or something, but it was really like, I think it's cool. Like, now that I think about it, because I thought it was cool the way he just, and his personality and my personality, like that's what I needed, just somebody to just be like cut and dry and just like smart ass, not even smart ass, but just like, like that's how I would talk to myself. That's probably how I do talk to myself, in my right state of mind. Well, probably in my wrong state of mind, but whatever. But, I think it was important, number one, that he was that, like that he approached it like that, but also that it was my decision. There was no like, if you do this again, you're going to da-da-da-da-da, or if you don't, or like, these are it wasn't, I think that he really felt like, I was capable of making that decision on my own. And it was very important for me to make it, I think. And sometimes that makes a big difference. It does. You can manipulate people. Like again, everything can be used for bad, or for good, so like you can get someone to think that something's their idea, but really you're just manipulating them and kind of like, that's not okay. But like to get somebody to do what's best for them, but for them to make it, for it to be their choice, it does make a difference. And so that just meant a lot to me, and I'm like such a child, like I can act like such a child. Like I really was like skipping up and down the halls, like I'm going to rehab, like I was really excited. And partly because like I knew from past experiences that like I have another chance at life, like really. And when people say like you don't get second chances in life, that's just not true. I'm not encouraging anybody to like not take advantage of the life they have or the situation. But you do get. It's not all is not lost. Like I truly have been given a second chance at life, and not just life, but life more abundantly. To quote from Jesus. Really though. He says, like. We cannot just survive, but we can live a life that's like fulfilling. And and you know, and be of service to others, you know, which just for what it's worth, like that's the point that I really am at. Like I really want to help other people, and in any way. Like they kept telling me in rehab, they kept saying you can't save everybody. And I was like, why are y'all telling me this? Like, I'm not even trying. What is it that I'm doing that's making y'all feel like you need to tell me that I can't save everybody? I'm not even trying to save anybody. I can't even save myself. But you know, like, I can't say, I mean, and helping someone and saving someone is not the same thing. You know, that doctor didn't save me, but that doctor did help me come to a point where I can make a decision that, you know, it changed my life or saved my life, you know? And so that, you know, that, so what if somebody would have told him, well, you can't save everyone. You can't save everyone. You know what I mean? It's like, there's things that people say to us that like, we might not be in a place where we're able to distinguish that that's like BS or not. You know, so I mean, and there, you know, there's probably people that were like, yeah, that's true. Like, I can't save everybody. Like, you know, like why even try, you know? But I do, I want to give back to the people. Like, I want people, like, I want someone else to have the chance that I had, you know, I don't want there to be a person that like, you know, is on the verge of making that phone call and is afraid because, you know, they don't know what to expect, or, you know, they don't know what people will think. Like, you really can't care what people think. And if you think that you're fooling people, you're probably not, you know? Like, if, and I know, like, so this is the crazy thing. Like, when I got back from rehab, like 2 weeks ago, you know, like I live in a neighborhood, like I have neighbors. The guy across the street from me is literally a drug dealer. Like, literally a drug dealer. And it's not a secret. I'm not telling his business any more than he does. You know what I mean? It's a known fact that he's a drug dealer. So why is it, like, how do we live in a world where literally I get out of the car and he's outside and I like wave at him and I'm like, I just got out of drug rehab. And he's like, stop doing that. Stop putting your business out there like that. And I'm like, oh my God, like, how backwards is this? Really? Like, just think about that. Like, this is somebody who is known to deal drugs. And the fact that I was openly, like, and because I was proud of it. I was like, I just got out of drug rehab. And he's like, stop putting your business out there like that. Like, that's backwards. You know, to me, that's backwards. And I guess in a way I could see where, like, if you admitted that you went to drug rehab, then you're admitting that you used to use drugs. You know, I mean, and I guess for some people that's a problem. But like I said, the chances that you were fooling everybody are very unlikely, you know? So it kind of would be foolish for you to, you know, you're going to miss an opportunity to maybe help somebody and inspire somebody that probably, you know, knew what you were doing anyway, or at least had some idea. They probably knew something was up with you. And to be able to, you know, I mean, I've just never been that person that was just ashamed. You know, I'm just not ashamed of who I am. I'm not ashamed of what I've done. And if anything, like, I hope that if somebody looks at me and they're like, oh, like, she's a meth addict, you know, or she's a recovering meth addict. There is a little shame that comes from that. There is. Like, I shave my head, you know what I mean? Like, the reasons that I shave my head are many. Like, there's many reasons that I shave my head. But I'm going to be completely honest with you right now. When I just said that, when I just said I am a recovering meth addict, I immediately looked at my hair and thought, there's going to be a correlation there. People are going to associate me not having hair with me being a meth addict and the typical behavior that is like, or the stereotypical behavior that is of meth addicts. You know, I was not out digging holes in my front yard. You know, I have all my teeth. You know, like, I mean, I practiced good hygiene. I slept and ate. You know, well, towards the end, it got to the point, it was weird in my neighborhood. It was like, you could go outside in the middle of the night and it was like, I swear everybody was out like it was broad daylight. I mean, it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. So I don't know if everybody in my neighborhood was high on meth or what. I mean, it was just bizarre. Like, even the roosters would crow in the middle of the night. So whatever. I live in sober living now, and the rooster crows when the sun comes up every morning at like 6 o'clock, 6:20. Um, that's crazy to me. You know, it's crazy to me that I lived in a neighborhood 12 miles from here. And, you know, like, I'd be up in the middle of the night. Like, it would be nothing for me to walk outside with the dogs at 3 o'clock in the morning and like smoke a cigarette and just like see the people showing up at the gas station that get there at 3 a.m. to start cooking breakfast, you know, and to see people like, you know, with all like just out and about, and to hear like the rooster crowing and stuff, you know. And here I am, you know, just like a few miles down the road, a few days after the fact, you know, and like I'm sitting outside. Like I wake up every morning at 6 o'clock, like on the dot. Like I wake up every morning, you know, the first time my alarm goes off, I get up, I have a whole routine, you know, get up, make my bed. I go, well, I usually pee first, make my bed, go upstairs, make a pot of coffee if Sue Ann hasn't made it already, you know, usually visit with her for a minute if she's up, which she usually is, unless she goes to work, because sometimes she goes to work at 4. You know, I don't really smoke that much, but like, you know, the mornings that I did have cigarettes, go outside, smoke a cigarette, hear the roosters crow like as the sun's coming up, you know. Read my devotional for the day, like read the Bible app. You know, kind of like meditate. I mean, I'm not praying as much as I should. I definitely don't spend as much quiet time as I need to with God. Not gonna make any excuses. I just need to. I think in my recovery, this doesn't really make sense, but in my recovery, I do feel like I'm doing a lot more talking than I am listening to God. And that's just something I need to kind of work on. I mean, I felt like, you know, I guess I maybe feel like I don't want to bother him anymore because, honestly, I mean, I was the most needy child that you could ever imagine in my addiction. Like for the past several years, for the past 7 years, for the past every year of my life, I have been the most needy child. You know, just like that one child that just requires so much more attention and effort than all the other children, you know. And I just have been. For one, because I never stopped depending on him. I never quit seeking him out and at least trying to be, you know, to have a relationship with him, you know. But also just because, like, I think when I totally surrendered my life to him, which I've done that multiple times, but every time it's like, I really think that God knows our hearts, and I really, I mean, I know he does. I know God knows our hearts, but I really believe that God knew the outcome. I think God knew that I would be sitting here today, and I really believe that God knew that if he just held me close just a little while longer, that I would be where I am right now, and that, you know, and I hope, I don't know, he knows, but I hope that it'll help somebody else, you know? And maybe that's why I don't talk to him as much as I should, or maybe that's why I haven't been like spending much alone time with him. I don't know. That's something that I need to explore. But I just feel like I was almost to the point where he was about to have to let me go. You know, like I was almost to the point where God was going to have to, you know, let me go. And that's not to say that I wouldn't have made it back to him, but it would have been really hard. It would have been really hard because it was almost too late. You know, I almost went to the point of no return. And I always kind of laugh at myself because I always feel like I have this knack for almost waiting too long, you know? But I really think it's just, he always pulls me out. And there's never been a too late. You know, with God, there's never been a too late for me. Even when I went through recovery, went through rehab, went through treatment, had 6 months of sobriety, went back out there, found myself in the same situations again, found myself in the same situations, but more severe, you know, let people down, let him down, hit rock bottom again, you know, hit rock bottom and had all the rocks that I thought were rock bottom falling on top of me, you know, like all of that. There probably was a lot of separation between God and I because he can't, you know, sin is what separates us from him. Sin is what interferes with our connection with him, you know, our relationship with him. It takes us away from him because he can't be around it. He can't. God is so perfect and so pure that he cannot be in the presence of sin. So the more sin that we have in our lives, the more separation there is between us and him. But when you cry out to God, he hears you. And he may not be able to, in that moment, it doesn't matter. You know, God has pulled me out every time I've cried out to him in desperation. And it's something that I would ever take advantage of. It's not like if I decided tomorrow that I want to go back out there and use drugs again or live my life recklessly or just even take a break from giving back to him or, you know, just focus on my own selfish wants and needs or whatever it is. You know, that's not to say that, oh, when things get bad or when it gets to that point, all I have to do is say, God, I'm ready. You know, like, come get me, you know, help me out here, make everything right again. You don't take advantage of that, you know, but it's knowing that there's a lot, there's a lot of freedom that comes in, you know, knowing that there's a chance that you could fail and that it's never going to be too late. You know, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there because it can't be. Anyway, sorry, I just got distracted. Anyway, okay. Point is, praise God that I'm here right now. Praise God that I almost took things too far. And I can't imagine living a life separated from him. I'm going to tell you this. Okay. I'm going to tell you this story. This is crazy. So, I know I still look like a PE teacher. This is a very inappropriate lecture to be giving your 7th grade PE class. So, and this story is going to have like it's going to have everything in it. It's going to have like, the hilariousness that comes from drug-induced stupor. It's going to have like some lessons in it. It's going to have some it's going to show you it's going to have all of it. So every time when my addiction was like at its worst, you know, when I was like really, really just out there, it's always been in a spiritual sense. Like I've always had like this, I mean, it's hard to explain, but it's like, you know, if a person was connected to God on that much of a spiritual plane, without drugs, I think that they would probably be subjected to like the spiritual realm in that same capacity. But I really believe that getting there while using drugs is not the same. So it would be kind of like being on, like if you're in an investigation, like an interrogation room, and there's two sides to like the double glass or whatever, like you're in the same room, but like it's not the same being the one interrogated and being the detective or the cop doing the interrogation. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that kind of like a good analogy? Like, I may have been really experiencing things like in the spiritual realm, but it was not through the eyes, you know, it was on the evil. It was a dark side, you know? And I think that's really just a direct reflection of where my mind was. But so in the last days before I went to the hospital, I thought I was in hell. Like I really, really did. I won't go into the details of it. I mean, the reasons that I thought I was doesn't. I think that I thought I was because I think God allowed me to see. I think He allowed me to see enough to know, really, to scare me straight. Really, and when I say I thought I was in hell, I mean, it was more than a hunch. And in my not right state of mind, I had a lot of evidence that I was seeing with my own eyes to back it. And a lot of it was based on actual facts or biblical principles, biblical, like, beliefs or whatever. But I really believed that I had missed the rapture. I really believed that all the angels that had came to get God's people had already came and left. And I really believed that when Satan arrived on his throne, that where we were was where we were going to spend eternity. And it was hell. That was all that was left. And I saw it all around me. I mean, I really, really did. It was the neighborhood that I lived in, but all I could see it was this cold, desolate, just, it was miserable. And it scared the life out of me. It scared me because I looked around and I saw everybody just zombied out and just not there, just not there. And it was like I was the only one that knew what was going on, And I was afraid that I was too late. I really was. And in the front of our house, so there's our backyard and there's like a fenced in area. And then there's a parking lot that backs up to our fence. So it's like our backyard, but it's like facing the road. So it's like this parking lot where this guy has like this equipment and stuff. And then there's like a gas station next to it. It's like all one thing. So there's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of stuff over there. But there's 3 crosses that are like in the front of that parking lot before the road. 3 white crosses. You might have seen them in some of my videos or like in one of my thumbnails or whatever. But it's not that people died there. Like, it's not, because it's like the speed limit was like 35 through there, it's like they're full size, not full size, I mean, they're like bigger than me, like 3 crosses. And I've heard all kinds of stories about where that came from. But the crazy thing is, like, the night before I went to the hospital, there was like 2 people out there, like the guy that rents anyway, point of the story is like there was 2 people out there and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning and they were out there like working. It was weird. I was outside because I was, they probably home at 2, whatever. But I was like, what if we're the 3 people that like those crosses are for? And like, this is the last, this is the last, train leaving here. You know what I mean? Like, I was not in my right state of mind, obviously, but like it was very, it was around this fear of like getting left and having to spend eternity in hell, and then these people came to my house and like picked me up like in the middle of the night and took me to a parking lot and were telling me that they had like tactical training and they did a 3-point security clearance of my house and all this stuff. Like, it was crazy. And I really was telling them, I was like, if I missed the rapture because I went in the car with you, I had my dog with me. It was crazy. It was crazy. And I was like, if I missed the rapture because I went with y'all, like, that's going to suck. But I know I probably did. But like, I think that I'm already in hell anyway, And so when I made that call, like, I know I was not in my right state of mind, but like, I was scared to death. And I really think God has always spoke to me in symbolism and imagery and metaphors. I think that's probably one reason Jesus always spoke in parables. It's just people need something to relate it to, because for one thing, the spiritual world is just, there's no way we can understand it any other way, But for me, with my imagination being as vivid as it is, or I have a big imagination, and being somebody that was really just thought I was rooted in logic and reason. And even though that was like so completely warped, I think God had to get real creative with how he spoke to me. And I really feel like that was my, I wouldn't even call it rock bottom. Rock bottom wouldn't even do it justice. I really feel like that was me getting out just before it was too late. And the people in my neighborhood have nothing to do with it. The location had nothing to do with it. My mental state, I really think if I would have went down that road any further, if I would have stayed in my addiction any longer, that would have been it. You know? And that scared me to death. No pun intended. That scared me really, really bad. And I'm so thankful that God knows me well enough, created me so, like, he really, you know, I don't really know what all he had in mind there when he created me, but he knowing how he created me, he also knew how to get through to me if I chose to listen, which I did. Thank God. Thank God. So, you know, for a lot of people, it might just look like, you know, getting thrown in jail or losing your kids or, you know, waking up on a couch at a trap house or something. I don't know. I mean, rock bottom for a lot of people might look like, you know, financial loss or loss of your job or, you know, whatever. Like, it might look different, but it probably looks like this in this world, like the things that matter to you. But to me, the thing that mattered most to me was my relationship with God. To me, the most important thing to me, like, I did not measure my worth at all by my social status, by my financial situation, like anything like that. So God had to, I think, force me to see that, like, I was about to hit rock bottom and lose the thing that mattered most to me, which was my salvation. And it did. It scared me. And I'm so thankful that I cried out to him and said, no, please get me out of here. Get me out of here, you know? So I'm going to end it on that note because I pray that if there's anybody out there that can relate to the mental torment that was the drug addiction that I lived in for years, the constant struggle of needing so badly to believe that things were the way they were because it's all you had, you know, it's a very miserable place. And if you are struggling, like, you know, if you are struggling with addiction, if you are in recovery, you know, I want this to be a community where people can talk and have like-minded people that they can be around and that understand them, and that I want this channel to be something that reaches somebody that otherwise couldn't be reached, you know, because, you know, that's just what I want. And I hope that everybody will, you know, click the like button, click the subscribe button, like this video, comment on this video, share this video. I would love feedback. You know, I would love for people to say, you know, what are the things that you like about this channel? What are the things that you don't like? Is there questions that, you know, about me, or is there things would you want to hear, you know, like what can I do for you guys? Like, what could I do to help somebody that may be stuck out there that may not know what to do, you know? So I thank you all for watching. There was a lot of people that it looks like stayed on here the whole time, so I really appreciate that. And I will definitely see you guys soon. I will hope tomorrow, but I'll definitely, you know, it'll definitely be in the near future. So thank you so much, you guys. I hope you have a good night. Bye.